Hi there, it's Chris Murray with Child Care Marketing Solutions with another weekly success video tip. And in this week's video, I want to talk to you and answer a question that I got from a member and follower named Kim. And Kim wrote me an email recently asking me for advice on her direct mail campaign. She wants to do a multi-step direct mail campaign, which I highly recommend, doing multiple steps to the same audience. And she wanted to know, what is a typical response rate? And so I'm going to talk to you about response rates and other things that you need to know with direct mail. And also how to determine the ROI, okay? Because ROI is actually more important when you look at it based on the revenue that the campaign brings you versus just response rate. So the first lesson is, don't get hung up just on response rate. But I want to answer Kim's question. What is a typical response rate that we can kind of benchmark the success of our campaign against? So my answer is around 1.5% to 2.5% is a typical response rate. Anything over that would be considered a pretty successful campaign just based on response rate alone, right? So laying out the numbers for you here at the whiteboard, if you did a mailing to 1,000 people in your market, just to use round numbers, you'd be looking for a response rate of around 2% or better to be considered a successful mailing just based on response rate, which again is not really how I want you to determine the success of your mailing. But just looking at that, a 2% response would mean that you would get 20 inquiries or responses to your mailing. So 20 folks are going to contact you from your mailing, and maybe you'll be able to convert on the high end, you'd probably be able to convert 10 of them to customers. Let's just say that you convert 8 of them to customers, okay? So we're going to say that equals 8 enrolling families. All right, so that's just kind of a benchmark for you in terms of what to look for. I also just want to mention, there's single step mailing, which is one postcard to a huge, massive amount of people, drop it, spend a lot of money, and pray for the phone to ring, right? I really believe in more of a targeted approach where you would find 500 or 1,000 of your best families that match your best demographics and your best avatar of your ideal client in your best neighborhoods. You really want to tighten in and have a more targeted mailing and send multiple pieces to them in a time frame of 2 or 3 weeks. That's what I do. So when I'm promoting my Success Summit event or other promotions, I mail to between 300 and 1,000 folks, my best customers on my list who have not taken a particular action, like sign up for the Success Summit. And I mail them out typically at least 2 steps in a campaign. So I first would mail them out something, and I usually use some kind of a lumpy mail to get the attention of the prospect. So there's a lot more to the way that we teach direct mail here at Child Care Marketing, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. But I do believe that when you go to somebody and then they receive something again from you, second chance, sending you the same thing. I didn't hear from you the first time, Mrs. Smith, and I'm really hoping I'll hear from you again. When you do that in repeated steps, your response rate will actually typically double. So where you might get like a 1% response rate on a single mailing, usually you will double that response rate if you do a second and third mailing. So it's worth your while to do that. But let's also talk about ROI. So the better way than just looking at response rate on the success of your mail campaign is to look at, what did you really gain from it monetarily? Okay, what was the return on investment? And so on this example, if you got 8 enrollments, let's just, to keep the math simple, let's assume that each enrolling family is worth around $10,000 in the first year of revenue, because that's 50 weeks times $200 tuition per week. Okay, so that's a rough for you. So $10,000 times 8 families equals a total income growth, total revenue growth for your program of $80,000 from this particular mail campaign, okay? And then what you want to do is look at, what did you spend on that mailing, So so just to keep the math simple, let's say you spent $8,000 to mail these 1,000 pieces out, right? So if you spent $8,000, but you got $80,000 in revenue, what's the ROI on that? That's a 10-to-1 ROI, right? You spent 8 and you got 80. Now, of course, not all of that is profit. You're going to have a certain profit margin, and so you can look at it in different ways. But just looking at it based on revenue, your ROI for that campaign is 10-to-1, 10-to-1 or 10x, and that's what your ROI is. So more powerful than just looking at your percentage of response is actually looking at your ROI and then comparing that ROI to the other types of campaigns and media and advertising that you're doing, and looking at which ones are most profitable for you. Okay, but I would say that I would keep doing this, so definitely a couple times a year, to bring in those new families that you're not going to get any other way. For whatever reason, they didn't enroll through signage or website or anything, but they did enroll through a mailing. Okay, and so you want to keep doing that multimedia approach. Don't just depend on one media or two. Okay, so that basically is the lesson, and that's for Kim, our member in Connecticut, to answer her about her question about response rate, and to teach you guys a little bit about how we look at return on investment here at Child Care Marketing Solutions. So this has been Chris Murray with another weekly success video, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.